We now begin the fourth and last session of this seminar on an introduction to Islamic eschatology, being held here at the Coombs Farm in Croydon, in London. And in this session, we will present an Islamic view of the end of history, which will include the timeline of events, of major events that will occur in the end of history. We are not dealing with the end of the world, we are only dealing with the end of history. That's eschatology. And the best hadith that you can hold on to is the one located in the Sunan of Abi Dawood, in which Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is talking to his companion Mu'az ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. In addition to this, there are several other ahadith, several other. This one, however, we hold on to as the best for teaching the subject. And the Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, Umranu baytil maqdis kharabu yatrib. Kharabu yatrib khurujul malhama. Khurujul malhama fathul Constantiniya. Fathul Constantiniya khurujul Dajjal. It's not difficult to memorize. When you examine this hadith, this prophecy, you see that he uses the analogy of construction to explain to you that when Jerusalem is built up, using the analogy of construction, built up, Umranu Bayt al-Maqdis, the implication is that he is speaking about when Jerusalem is in center stage in the world. That's built up. And now the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel by the United States of America is part of the process of Jerusalem occupying center stage in the world. At that time, when Jerusalem is there, Medina will be here. Medina, of course, is not there. The word in the hadith is Yathrib, not Medina. Yathrib is the name of the city in the Quran. That name was changed subsequently, and a new name is being used of Medina to Nabi, but in the hadith the name is Yathrib. So when Jerusalem is there, Medina will be here. Kharabu Yathrib, meaning Medina has no status at all in the world, playing no role at all in the affairs of the world. None. No important personalities of the world come to meet in Medina. No. They will meet in Helsinki, they'll meet in Vienna, they'll meet in Bonn, they'll meet in different capitals of the world, but no one goes to Medina for anything important. Are we there now? Is that the state of the world today? Is Jerusalem moving to center stage? Yes, it is. Does Medina have any status at all in the affairs of the world? None whatsoever. When that time comes, then the next event that will occur would be the Malhama, or the Great War. And we know something about the Great War. Yes. It is the hadith in Sahih Bukhari, where our Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, that the river Euphrates will uncover a mountain of gold. And if you are not a student of eschatology, you can't understand that mountain of gold. You still remain waiting for the mountain of the metal. Yes. The river Euphrates will uncover a mountain of gold, meaning a mountain of the metal will come out from underneath the river. Unless you are a student of eschatology, you're going to be waiting for a mountain of the metal to come out from underneath the river. But if you are in eschatology, you'll be able to interpret. And people will fight for that mountain of gold. And 99 out of every 100 who fight will be killed. There's never been a war in all of human history in which 99% of all combatants have been killed. Never. This is the first time of such a war. And this cannot be a war which fought with conventional weapons. No. It'll have to be weapons of mass destruction. Mass destruction. نرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. A flash of fire will be sent against you, followed with smoke, and there will be no escape, none to help you. Looks like nuclear war, doesn't it? 99% of all those who fight for that mountain of gold will be killed. And each will say, I will be the one who will survive. But the believers must not touch that gold. And we from eschatology, we have offered an interpretation. We have said it was an ocean of oil underneath the river, which will function one day as a mountain of gold. And that happened in 1974, when Henry Kissinger fooled King Faisal and got him to agree to this stupid and foolish and false and haram agreement that Saudi oil will be sold for only US dollars. So not even with dinar and dirham can I buy oil. No, only with US dollars. And so the US dollar became a petrodollar in 1974. And that is the economy today, the monetary system, a petrodollar monetary system. But this petrodollar monetary system is most unjust of all, sucking the wealth of mankind. And so one day they're going to fight over it. And that is the war that's coming. They're going to fight for the mountain of gold. And that is the Malhama that is coming. Because Russia and China, together with India and Brazil and South Africa, have come together in an organization called BRICS. And they are attempting to replace the petrodollar monetary system with another monetary system. And when they succeed, goodbye to the US dollar. And if the US dollar collapses, all the currencies in the world will all collapse, because they're all dependent on the US dollar. So that's the malhama that's coming. But the Dajjal needs the malhama. Why? If they had Hillary Clinton as president, they would have had the malhama already. The reason why they have not had the malhama is because they don't trust Donald Trump. He's not part of the gang. He didn't come out of the swamp of politicians. He's a businessman. And most of all, he said, I see no reason why we can't do business with Russia. So long as Donald Trump is President of the United States, there will be no malhama, no Armageddon. In order for the Armageddon or malhama to take place, they need a president in the Oval Office who they can trust. And so, over the next few years, maybe, who knows, few months, I anticipate, and of course I can be wrong, that an effort is going to be made to get rid of Trump by the hook or by the crook. There are many ways to bell a cat. Either they impeach him, or a bullet might find its way, and he's finished. As soon as Trump is removed, then they have their own man there, that's a fellow named Pence. And if he's there, then they can have the malhama. We notice one thing consistent with them when they wage their big wars. The First World War and the Second World War in particular. And that is, they always use an act of profound deception to herald the war. In the First World War, Britain was losing the war. Oh yes. France had already been occupied, yes, by the Germans. And Germany was winning the war. And the only way they could be saved is if the United States were to intervene and join the war. But public opinion in the United States was against the war, against intervening. And Henry Ford was the most powerful American of all. And Henry Ford was supporting Germany. So they needed something that would justify war. So they sent a passenger ship into the Atlantic Ocean like a sitting duck. And they concealed the fact that it was a passenger ship. And the Germans would say, go ahead with their torpedoes and their submarines, go and sink it. So they actually sent these people to be killed. And the Germans didn't realize the trick. And they torpedoed the ship, and the ship was destroyed and sank, and all, I don't know how many, hundreds and thousands of people died. When that happened, then American public opinion turned in favor of war. And the United States could enter the war. And the rest of the story you know. In the Second World War, the same thing was happening. And that is that Adolf Hitler and Germany was winning the war. Oh yeah. The Soviet Union, which was already a communist state, an atheist state, still they had tricked the Soviet Union to do the bulk of the fighting. And so the masses of people who were being killed were usually Russians. And Germany was winning the war. And they needed something to bring the United States into the war. How to do it? Until Roosevelt ordered that the American Navy must come to Pearl Harbor. But the Admiral said to the President, don't do that. Our Navy will be a sitting duck for the Japanese. Don't do that. Roosevelt ignored them because he wanted the American Navy to be a sitting duck for the Japanese. And the Japanese didn't realize the trap which was being set for them, like the Germans did not in the First World War. And when the entire American fleet was parked up in Pearl Harbor, the Japanese then took the bait and they attacked and they destroyed Pearl Harbor, and thousands were killed. As soon as that happened, the American government got what they wanted. Public opinion then turned in favor of the war. And the United States then entered the war, and you know the rest of the story. So, consistent with this methodology, it is therefore not surprising that they should now be preparing some act of false flag terrorism, some major act of false flag terrorism, and put the blame on others so that they can get a justification for war. What is it going to be? I don't know. But I do have a suspicion. But I'm not going to share it with you because it is too dangerous to even mention in public. But I think I know what they're planning. When the Great War takes place, however, and 99 out of every 100 to be killed, Allah is going to intervene in this war. And I have a little book at the back of the hall entitled The Quran, The Great War and the West, which you can read. But Russia is going to emerge out of this war, Russia and China, victorious. And this world war will bring about the end of Western civilization. But they don't know that. Now what would there be in such an outcome that will be advantages to Dajjal? Answer? If Dajjal is to rule the world from Jerusalem, then Israel has to become the ruling state in the world. But Israel is small, and the world is big. How can this small state rule this big world? Either that Israel has to become big, or the world has to become small. Which one will it be? You guessed it. That's why they need the malhama. That's why they need the malhama. They want the world to become smaller. But Allah also has said in the Quran, وَإِن مِّن قَرْيَةٍ إِلَّا نحن مهلكوها قبل يوم القيامة أو معذبوها عذابا شديدا كان ذلك في الكتاب مسطورا. There's not a town or city that he will not destroy. Surah Al-Isra. There's not a town or city that he will not destroy. And those which escape destruction will be punished with terrible punishment. And this is inscribed in the kitab, in the book. I have analyzed this ayah of the Quran in my book, at the back, the small book. Not all will be destroyed, but those which deserve to be destroyed will be destroyed. Those, for example, who are the money lenders of the world, and who are enriching themselves while Pakistan is miserably poor and Bangladesh is miserably poor. And Africa is miserably poor, and Algeria and Morocco are miserably poor. And they are richer and yet richer and richer. فَأَذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Allah is going to wage war against them. That's the Western world. And then Sodom and Gomorrah, and he destroyed them. And he left that as an ayah. And where is Sodom and Gomorrah today? It's the Western world, which says that a man can marry another man and get a marriage certificate. So in this malhama, Allah is going to intervene to support one side against the other. And this side will be destroyed and that side will survive, but with a lot of losses. But at the time of the malhama, I expect that Israel will then make a move. So far she's been behind a hijab, hiding herself behind a hijab and using proxies, usually the United States, to wage a war for her. Proxies. But now Israel is going to come out from behind the hijab. In India they call it parda, from behind the parda. And you see the face of Israel now for the first time. Clearly, openly visible that this wants to become the ruling state in the world. And I expect that the first thing that will happen during the malhama from the side of Israel will be an attack on Pakistan to destroy Pakistan's nuclear weapons and nuclear plants. I hope these words will reach the Pakistan Armed Forces and the new government. They want to denuclearize Pakistan. So no Muslim country, none, would have the means of defending itself against them. Because Israel is not surrounded by Orthodox Christianity. Israel is surrounded by Islam. When they succeed in denuclearizing Pakistan, and there is no reason why they should not succeed, because if you raise your hands and you make dua to Allah for help, while the curse of a prophet is upon you, will he help you? No. And the prophet has said, he's cursed all four. And he said they're all equally guilty. The one who takes riba, the one who gives riba, the one who records the transaction, and the two witnesses. And from the day Pakistan was born to this day, Pakistan is only borrowing on interest, borrowing on interest, borrowing, and doing it openly. And even now, one more bailout from the IMF. I hope he doesn't take it. So if there is a curse of a prophet upon you, don't expect that your dua will reach to Allah at all. So if Pakistan is broken up into bits and pieces, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Because Allah is not going to intervene to help you. This is the first thing we expect when the malhama takes place. I want to pause now for a moment before we return to our theme of the timeline of events, to say that sometimes in an evil event there is something good. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. It may be that you dislike something, but in it there is benefit for you. When the British were in charge of India, British India, the Muslims wanted to get rid of the British. Oh yes. And they debated what to do. And the best minds of the British, of the Muslims in India, the best minds, those who knew the Quran the best, the scholars, they decided that we want to restore the Khilafah. Yes, to restore the Khilafah state. So they established a movement called the Khilafat movement. Because this is not the Arabic word Khilafah, this is the Urdu word Khilafat. So they pronounce the T. So they called it the Khilafat movement. Meaning, when the British are gone, we want to have the Khilafah state. That's very good. Right? And what is the Khilafah state? I already explained it to you. The Hindus looked at what the Hindu Muslims were doing. The Hindus saw that the whole of India was mobilized as never before. There was electricity everywhere. There was excitement everywhere. Never before in the history of India had any movement so electrified the people as the Khilafat movement. The Hindus were stunned. This is the love of the Muslims for Khilafah. That the head of the Hindus, a man named Gandhi, is known as Mahatma Gandhi, the great Gandhi. He said to himself, but wait a minute, the same thing that the Muslims want is what I want. They want to get rid of the British, I want to get rid of the British. And they want that when the British are thrown out, that the Muslims should live as Muslims. And I want that when the British are thrown out, that the Hindus should live as Hindus. So we have the same goal, so why don't we get together? And he made the effort to reach out to the Khilafat movement, to try to build an alliance. He did it. And he said, all that I ask of you is this one thing, that you will not slaughter the cow. That's all. Had I been the head of the Muslims, I would have said to Mr. Gandhi, you don't have to ask for that. Don't bother to make that a condition. Out of respect for your religious beliefs, even though we are permitted, it is halal for us, out of respect for your religious beliefs, and we are living in your territory, we will voluntarily stop eating beef. You don't have to ask for it. If they had responded like that, it would have been written in gold on the hearts of the Hindus. But they didn't respond like that. They said, yes, Mr. Gandhi, we agree with this condition, which was good on their part. And so the Khilafat movement was born with an alliance with the Hindus. And the British were faced with the most serious challenge that modern Western civilization has ever faced. Much more serious than Hitler, much more serious than Germany in the First World War, was the Khilafat movement. Yes. So what to do? What to do? What they did was to use Mustafa Kemal to abolish the Khilafah in Constantinople, to pull the rug from under their feet. And they used Muhammad Iqbal, for which he got the knighthood. He became Sir Muhammad Iqbal, to declare that the modern republican state is an adequate substitute for the Khilafah. Iqbal is a great scholar, and we love him for his learning and his scholarship. He's our teacher. But if your teacher makes a mistake, you must tell him you made a mistake. And this is the mistake that Iqbal made. And there are those who say, no, don't criticize Iqbal. And I want to say to them straight to their faces, I don't care two peanuts for what you think. When I preach and when I teach, I'm in search of the truth. And I don't care two peanuts if you differ with me, if I am on the path of truth. That's my answer to them. You don't like me? Go find another scholar. I'm prepared to walk alone in the world. Iqbal made a mountain of a mistake when he declared that the modern Republican state, which is Pakistan, is an adequate substitute for the Khilafah. But they are so brainwashed, the cattle, they cannot even understand that. So if Pakistan is broken up, that's not the end of the world. From the time the attack on Pakistan takes place, an opportunity will emerge to go back to where you were before with the Khilafat movement, and to now struggle once again for what your forefathers struggled, to restore the Khilafah state. Once the Armageddon or the Malhama takes place, that is the wake-up call for all the Muslims in the subcontinent and Afghanistan and Central Asia. That is the wake-up call. Forget the modern secular state. Forget the Republican state. Forget the Islamic Republic and this and that and the other. Because they're all going tomorrow. And return to the struggle for the restoration of the Khilafah state. And I've already defined Khilafah state. I'm sorry that I had to take this bypass, but now get back to the subject. The reason why they need the Malhama is because they want the world to contract. So Israel will be able to manage a smaller world. Not only will the world contract, but Israel also will expand. Because the Bible says that the Holy Land extends from the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates. I don't know who wrote it, that part of the Bible. I don't know who wrote it. But whoever wrote it put his foot into a hole. They can't get out of it now. They have to expand the state of Israel to encompass the biblical frontiers. They can't get out of it. Otherwise, the Dajjal cannot rule the world from the Holy Land. No Jew will accept him. So that's why they needed NATO in Libya. So Egypt can be attacked from both sides. They need to take the eastern delta of Egypt, which is the food basket of Egypt. But Egypt is 80 million people. You can't do it with only aerial bombardment. You need a land war to take the eastern delta of Egypt. So they're going to attack Egypt from the Mediterranean. They'll attack Egypt from Libya. They'll attack Egypt from Sinai. And they'll attack Egypt from South Sudan and Ethiopia. So Egypt will be cornered all sides. And you have to impoverish Egypt until Egypt is in slavery. And that's already being done through riba. And then Israel will expand her territory all the way to the river Euphrates. So that's why they attacked Iraq. And that's why they're attacking Syria. Because Israel must take this entire territory from the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates. These two things will take place when the Great War takes place. The attack on Pakistan and the expansion of the territory of Israel. There's another thing which will assist Israel in expanding her territory at the expense of the Arabs. And that is وَيْلٌ لِلْعَرَبِ وَيْلٌ لِلْعَرَبِ مِنْ شَرٍّ قَدْ اقْتَرَبَ. The Prophet ﷺ prophesied that the Arabs are going to be destroyed. أَنُهْلَكُ وَفِينَا الصَّالِحُونَ. Will we be destroyed while there are righteous people amongst us? She asked, Zainab radiallahu ta'ala. Naam. Yes, the Arabs are going to be destroyed when? إِذَا كَثُرَ الْخَبَثِ When garbage prevails in the world, is garbage prevailing in the world today? Oh yes, certainly. The money we are using is garbage. The political system we have, with elections and money being used in elections and voting, people being paid, bought, to buy and sold, and rigging of elections and all these, garbage in the political system, garbage in the male-female relationship, garbage in television, garbage in the radio and newspapers, false news. The world is inundated now with garbage. إِذَا كَثُرَ الْخَبَثُ. When that happens, then the Arabs are going to be destroyed. So a number of events are going to take place concomitantly with the Malhama. But there's one part of the world that we must watch, and that's Russia. That's Russia. Because after the Malhama, the next event, major event to take place would be the conquest of Constantinople. The conquest of Constantinople makes sense if you can connect the dots. Makes sense in a number of ways. Number one, we have to face a great oppressor in the world. If Britain was a great oppressor in Pax Britannica, then the United States was a worse oppressor in Pax Americana. So you can imagine what kind of oppression they're going to be in Pax Judaica. Oppression will be to such an extent at that time that a man will pass by a grave and roll on the grave and say, I wish I were in the grave rather than the dead man, because of biting oppression. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْدَهُمْ بِبَعْدٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. If Allah had not caused some people to resist others, there would be overwhelming oppression in the world. So there will be some people from the side of truth who must always resist the oppressor. So who are these on this side? In Surah Al-Anfal, which is the surah of international affairs and strategic affairs of Surah Anfal. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْدَهُمْ بِبَعْدٍ. No, sorry. الْكَافِرُونَ بَعْدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. The kuffar are allies of each other. The kuffar are allies of each other. Listen carefully. Surah Al-Anfal. إِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا يعني تفعلوه تكن فتنة في الأرض وفساد كبير. If you do not do the same, meaning build alliances, there will be fitna on earth and great fasad. So in combating the oppressor, at the time when oppression is at its zenith in Pax Judaica, this ummah has to look for allies. Because that is what Allah says in Surah Al-Anfal. And if we are to look for allies, who should we search? Where should we search? Answer, go in the Quran and search. And Allah says in the Quran, لَتَجِدَنَّ فِي الْمُضَارِعَ, that you will most certainly find at this time when the Quran is revealed and in time to come. أشد الناس عداوة للذين آمنوا اليهود, that those who will have the greatest hatred for you would be Jews. It happened at the time when the Quran was revealed, and it's now happening again. Unless you are living in Disneyland or Hollywood, you would know that the Jews today have the greatest hatred for us. Look at what they're doing in Gaza. Look at what they're doing in the Holy Land. This is not a condemnation of the Jewish religion. No, because there are Jews who are joining with us in standing up against the oppressor. So we are not condemning the Jewish religion. No. وَالَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا, and at that time when the Jews have greatest hatred for you, there will be another people sunk in shirk who will also have this hatred for you, waging war on terror, when in fact they're waging war on Islam. Well, then Allah is saying that at that time, لَتَجِدَنَّ, you will also find something else at that time. What is it? أَقْرَبَهُمْ وَلَتَجِدَنَّ أَقْرَبَهُمْ مَوَدَّةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى, that those who will be closest in love and affection for you at that time when the Jews have the greatest hatred for you would be a people who declare, we are Christians. And I have explained this ayah 500,000 times already, so I don't have to do it one more time. Save the time. I have identified this with the Orthodox Christian world. But that does not exclude people from Western Christianity who have their hearts in the right place. Yeah. So an alliance between the world of Islam and the Orthodox Christian world led by Russia is necessary, because they are the ones who will be closest in love and affection for us. In order for that alliance to be established, you need to liberate the Bosphorus, and therefore Constantinople. And that is why the conquest of Constantinople comes after the Malhama. The Russia will still survive the Malhama. The Russia will still have a navy. If there is no aircraft, at least you have the navy. And there's another reason why. There's a conquest of Constantinople after the Malhama. If we are to build this alliance with Orthodox Christians, not only must they become closest in love and affection for us, but we have to do something that will facilitate that process. And what it is. Someone took the greatest cathedral of the Orthodox Christian world, Hagia Sophia, and in an act of unrivaled shamelessness and sinfulness transformed it into a masjid, to the eternal disgrace of the world of Islam. Yes. I don't curry favor with the Christians. When I went to the Greek Orthodox Christian church in Leeds 1 week ago to speak to them, I was not putting butter on the bread, speaking with a forked tongue to gain votes, not at all. I was speaking the absolute truth. when I declared that this is a matter of eternal disgrace for the world of Islam, because it's in conflict with the Quran. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْدَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيَعٌ وَصَلَوَاتٌ وَمَسَاجِدُ يُذْكَرُ فِيهَا اسْمُ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا. If Allah had not checked those with these, then churches and synagogues and masajid and temples would have been destroyed. But no, we have to protect them. But no, he took the cathedral and transformed it into a masjid in manifest conflict of what is in the Quran, and drove a dagger that is bleeding for 600 years now in the Orthodox Christian heart, that our greatest cathedral, our Kaaba, and you took it and converted it into a masjid to sabotage the end-time alliance of Muslims with Orthodox Christians. But you plan your plans. I am saying to Mustafa Kemal, and I'm saying to Turkey and to the Balkans, who will not listen to me. You plan your plans and Allah plans His plans, and you cannot stop it. We are going to conquer Constantinople, and you cannot stop it. Listen carefully to me. And when we conquer Constantinople, we will return the church to the Christians. You cannot stop it. And when we return the church to the Christians, we will apologize to them. And you cannot stop it. We don't care two peanuts of how you feel. You can kill a man, but you cannot kill the truth. We will apologize to them for having taken their church and converted it into a masjid. And we will take the name of the city and restore it to what it was on the lips of the Blessed Prophet, because he referred to it as Constantinople. And therefore the name that is Sunnah is Constantinople. You can't challenge me with that. And when this is done, the bleeding in their hearts will stop. And their hearts will be reconciled. And the alliance then come into being. The ummah that follows Nabi Isa alayhi salam, and the ummah that follows Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, these two ummahs will come together in friendship and alliance. Then said the Prophet ﷺ, after the conquest of Constantinople, only then will the Dajjal emerge. But now it's too late. Now it's too late. He's taken you for a ride. He's taken you for a ride. And he's trapped you. And there is no escape for you now. Only when there is no escape for you, only then does he appear in human form. Do you see? Are you understanding the divine wisdom? When there is no escape, the alliance of the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam with the alliance of the Ummah of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, وَجَعِلُوا الَّذِينَ تَبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. When these two ummahs come together in friendship and alliance, that's it, the rope is around your neck. It is only at this time that Dajjal in his infinite cunning, oh yes, it's beautiful. Now he says, I'm the Messiah. But now too late for them. Too late for them. The trap has been set. When he declares that he is Messiah, it is at that time and not before that Allah will then send Imam al-Mahdi to lead this ummah and send Nabi Isa alayhi salam to lead that ummah. And God's goodbye to Dajjal, and goodbye to Gog and Magog, and goodbye to Israel. And this is how we end our seminar on an introduction to Islamic eschatology.
ready for the
Yes,
questions?
yes.
First question. This is a series of 4 questions from the same brother. I will not ask all 4 at the same time. How do you think the Malhama will start?
I did make mention already previously that it was a false flag, an act of deception. The ship, what was the name of the ship? The American ship that the Germans sank? Nobody knows the name of the ship? Which allowed the United States to enter the First World War. Huh?
Bismarck.
No. Okay, maybe one day you start doing your homework. I think it was a name like Lithuania or something like that. Check it out. And then came the second one to get into the Second World War. Pearl Harbor. Yeah, Pearl Harbor. They put the fleet there to be a sitting duck. So the Japanese will attack. And all these Americans will be killed, but that doesn't matter, it's collateral damage. So that the United States will get a justification for entering the war. And so I said, using logical consistency, there will have to be a master of all deception, the mother of all deception, something that is meticulously planned by the best satanic minds you can find, to allow them to enter this third war and to fight against Russia and China. What is that going to be? I don't know. All that I said is I have a suspicion, because I've been working in this field for a long, long time now, and Allah has been kind to me. But what I have discovered is so dangerous and so evil that I won't mention it in public. No? So my answer is, I don't know what is going to be the event that is going to trigger off the Great War.
Next question. When Israel rules the world after Malhama, what would be the state and situation of the Russian Federation? Will Russia still be a superpower?
Russia will survive the Malhama. The conquest of Constantinople, which follows the Malhama, implies that Russia will survive the Malhama. Of course, greatly damaged, 99%, greatly damaged. But with a navy in force, because I don't think there'll be any air force after the Malhama. This is why a conquest of Constantinople will liberate the Bosphorus. And the liberation of the Bosphorus from NATO will allow the Russian Navy to pass through the Bosphorus into the Mediterranean. Yeah.
Is Turkish President Erdogan to be trusted? If no, please explain.
No comment. Next question.
The Quran says in Surah Anbiya and Surah Rahman that all cities will be destroyed. The Hadith mentions that 99% of combatants will be killed. Please elaborate on the harmonious integration of the two.
There is a little booklet at the back in which I've analyzed precisely this. The ayah of the Quran in Surah Al-Isra, وَإِن مِّن قَرْيَةٍ إِلَّا نَحْنُ مُهْلِكُوهَا قَبْلَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ أَوْ مُعَذِّبُوهَا عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا كَانَ ذَلِكَ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَسْطُورًا. I've analyzed this. Please read that booklet, the Quran, the Great War in the West. Yeah?
2 questions on Saudi Arabia, both interconnected, mainly about the ruling family's imprisonment of the leadership in Saudi Arabia. Do you want to comment on that, Sheikh?
There is the prophecy of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that a Khalifa would die. And there would be disagreement after his death concerning succession. and that it is at that time that a man will come out of Medina, at that time Yathrib, and hurry to Mecca, and he will be Imam al-Mahdi. My Salafi brothers, and they are my brothers, I don't have any boxing gloves with them. I only fight on the subject of methodology, because their methodology is wrong. The Salafi says that this is proof that the Khilafah state will be restored within the Saudi royal family. I don't know whether it will be under debt of Salman or Muhammad bin Salman, but it's not going to be long again. Yes.
It's interconnected to what we are discussing, but it says that Saudi Arabia listens more closely to your lectures than most. They are making efforts to claim that they are representative of Islam, are reaching out to Russia, as they did publicly in Moscow in 2017. Do you think they are doing this as they are about to be destroyed?
No. What they're doing is playing both sides. They are clever enough to know that the United States of America is now in irreversible decline. They're not that dumb. They're clever enough to know that Saudi Arabia alone is keeping the United States alive. If Saudi Arabia were to pull the rug, the United States is gone. All that the Saudis have to do is you can buy our oil with any currency. Their hearts are firmly located in Qarn Shaitan. Qarn Shaitan. You know about Qarn Shaitan? The Prophet ﷺ is in Yathrib, which is now Medina, and he says, Allahumma barik lana fi Shamina wa Yamanina. O Allah, grant barakah, blessings, in our Sham and our Yemen. Our, meaning our Sham. I don't know if I have to repeat that 500,000 times. He said, our Sham. And he said, our Yemen. Huh? And then the people asked, well, what about our Najd? Did you hear that? Our Najd? Now there's a Najd next door to Medina. There's a Najd in the Arabian Peninsula. And when they said, our Najd, obviously they're referring to the one next door. But there are those with a bogus methodology who are still schoolboys, not scholars, and who insisted on beating the drums as loudly as they can to say, no. He's not referring to this Najd which is next door. He's referring to a Najd out there somewhere in Iraq. What rubbish. Is that scholarship? He's talking about the Najd which is next door when he said, our Najd, Shamina, Yamanina, Najdina. So from the Najd which is next door to Medina, he said from there will come earthquakes. And earthquakes are physical events, and earthquakes are also non-physical events. There's an earthquake taking place today in the male-female relationship. This earthquake is like a revolution. Earthquakes and trials and Qarn Shaitan. This satanic age will come from there. And the rulers who now rule over Saudi Arabia, who gave the name Saudi Arabia, which is impertinent and disrespectful to Muhammad ﷺ, that you name this land after you, huh? If this land is to be named after anyone, it should be him, not you. but they named it Saudi Arabia without a shadow of shame. And they are the ones, an alliance of the Saudi family and a movement which emerged from Muhammad Abdul Wahab, which the world of Islam has chosen to call the Wahhabi movement. You can shout and shout and shout and shout and keep on shouting. But the world of Islam has chosen to call it the Wahhabi movement. So the Saudi Wahhabi alliance has produced this state, this nation state of Saudi Arabia, which is not a Khilafah state. And it came out of Najd. It came out of Najd. And so those who rule in Saudi Arabia are people who represent Qarnu Shaitan, the satanic age. But Shaitan, Iblis, remember he's a logician, eh? He's arguing. You see, you created me from fire, and you created him from clay. And anyone who went to university and got a degree would know that fire is superior to clay. And hence it logically follows I'm superior to him. You see the logician arguing. And so when Saudi Arabia reaches out to Russia, to talk to Russia and make any deals with Russia, the Russians can say, yes, we can talk, but the Russians will never trust them, never trust them.
Right. I think last question for the brothers, and I think Sheikh, the sisters wanted to ask you questions separately.
Okay.
Around the table there. So is Pax Judaica a precursor to Malhama, or will Pax Judaica be born out of the Malhama?
Pax Judaica cannot emerge without a Malhama. They need the Malhama so that the world will become smaller. They need the Malhama to get rid of the United States. That's what the Malhama is going to do. There'll be no United States after that. There'll be no Pax Americana after that. So the Malhama is meant to facilitate the transition from Pax Americana to Pax Judaica.
I think the brothers have had a good session on questions and answers, and Sheikh, if brother Yunus will take you down to the ladies section. They're eager to ask questions as well. Any more desperate questions that we haven't covered? I think we've covered quite a lot of the topic and satisfied most of the people. If there are maybe one last question, Malana?
Okay. When I'm through with the sisters, then if you still have any books to autograph, you can bring them to me, inshallah. Okay? Yeah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وعلى أصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.